Welcome to the second video in the training series. This one is a very important video. This is pull technique. Now, this can either save you a ton of time or make your life hell if you don't know it. So what I'm going to go over is my current technique for pulls and just some typical windows that you're going to encounter where you have to use a pull. Now, there are a bunch of different ways to do this, but this one will work for about 90% of the windows that you are going to encounter. So let's jump right in. Now, I want to start out with an exterior window. It's a pretty long window, and at the very beginning, you see that I drag the top with the scrubber. Now, when I drag the top with the scrubber, I do this because if you smack the top a million times when you're scrubbing, you're going to deposit a whole bunch of water on the top sill. Now, if you have a whole bunch of water on the top sill, there's almost no way to get it off and you're always going to have drips. So the best way to go about that is to get the pole at like probably a centimeter away from the top and then drag that top edge. So when you drag that top edge, it kind of gives you a buffer. And then when you go back over it, you can scrub up to the buffer instead of hitting the top of the sill. So that's what I did here. And then just simply flip the back flip around. And then here I'm dragging the top of that sill pretty much exactly like I would with the handheld squeegee. But in this type of scenario, we're not going to be able to do that swervy motion with our hand. So you want to drag the top of the sill and come down. Drag the top of the sill, come down. And then at the very end here, you can't drag from the side. So you'll want to do like 1 or 2 pulls to get the residual water from the top and then pull all the way down. This is going to make that top very, very dry and you're going to have no drips. And when I say scrape the top, I mean go over the window and hit that little rubber sill where the window meets the metal. There's a rubber sill, drag that and grab all that water and then pull it down. Here's another good example. This one has some window decals for the address. So I do the same thing here, making that top edge, leading that top edge with the scrubber and then creating that buffer. And then I drag the top and I come back down. Now on these, with the window graphics, you just go right over them like they're not there. Sometimes they're a little bit thicker and you're gonna wanna watch that. So when you get completely finished, you're gonna wanna watch the window graphic and see if there's water pooled up. And if there is, you can come back over and under the, for this one, it would be the 800. I would go over and under just to get that bottom edge and get that water off of the 800. But on this one, it didn't do that because the letters are pretty flush. And then right there, I do the pull down technique, where I grab that last little top edge and then pull down. Now this window is a little bit different. It's in a recessed area. That's technically an exterior window, but it's in a recessed area in the building. So what they did here is they added some sills that are about, I would say 4 inches. And we're gonna clean this one a little bit differently. I do still do the tracing on the top to get that buffer and then scrub it. I'm gonna flip it here and then pull down. But at the end here, the only difference is I don't go completely down and then immediately move over. I'll stop for a second and then slowly, as I'm holding the pole, I'll pull back on the pole to get it more flush and then come completely down. That way you don't leave an edge. If you do a normal technique, you're gonna leave a little bit of bar on the end, on that bottom edge, and it's gonna look really, really crappy. So just to show that again on that second swipe, come back down and then slowly tilt it. Instead of just smack, slowly go down and then bring the pole up, tilt the pole up so that the rubber comes flush with the bottom of the window. As a side note here, you can see that I don't go ride that edge on the end on pull very closely. Now, what that means is, so there's the dry part of the window and the wet part of the window. And if my hand is the squeegee, I'm not gonna hit the wet part very close to the end. I'm gonna hit it probably about 3/4, maybe even a half sometimes, depending on how wet the window is. And I'm gonna come down that way. That's gonna give you a lot of buffer room to work with. You may have to do 1 or 2 extra pull strokes, but it's gonna give you a lot of room to work with. And that way you're not dragging water all over the window. If it's halfway, that other half is gonna be dry and it's not gonna leave any streaks on the part that we already cleaned. In this clip, this is another window in that recessed area with the long sills. And the reason why there's no scrubber on the back is because I took it off. Now, when you take the scrubber off, it's gonna give you a lot more room to work with. You're gonna feel very versatile with the squeegee. And it's gonna be, I would normally clean like this if it didn't take that much time, because you feel like a ninja. Like you can get anywhere and everything seems to work perfectly. So in instances where there's a hard window to clean, I would highly recommend taking off that scrubber, because it's gonna give you a lot more maneuverability and versatility when you're in tight spaces. This last one is just a good example of how to generally clean the window. Just drag that top again. Can't say that enough. Come back down. I'm going about 3/4, using 3/4 of the squeegee instead of half like I would a very wet window. This one's pretty dry. And then finish strong on the end with nothing on the bottom, and that's pull technique. So we'll get into some trickier windows and cleaning in some tricky conditions as well in later videos. But as far as pulling anything normal on the route goes, that's about all you're going to need. So stay tuned for the next one. It's going to go over rag work and then some more advanced techniques for a little bit more difficult windows, scraping and stuff like that. So stay tuned.